I'm very sorry if I'm going to sound too much like a cynic before I begin the debate, but I'm going to have to say this. There is a growing feeling that politicians don't care about the middle class because they don't vote. And therefore, that's probably the cynical and selfish calculation that politicians make. Nevertheless, I'm not going to pass judgment on this at the start. But that is a feeling a lot of people have, including many of our viewers. And to our viewers, we'll open up the phone lines and take a few calls as well in the course of this debate. Mohan Guruswamy from Hyderabad. G.N. Ratanpuri, part of the UPA, is a member of Parliament of the National Conference. He's defending the government. He said they've done nothing wrong. Sajid Chinoy, chief economist at JP Morgan, he says, I don't think we can blame the government. It's a systemic problem. Professor Vivek Dahija feels it's policy paralysis in the government. So does Shazia Ilmi. My first question to the government, not to the government, but to someone taking on the government, Vandana Shiva, founder of the Research Foundation for Science, Technology and Ecology. Why do you feel the government's behind this recent meteoric food price hike? Why are you slamming the government?
Well, the way the prices have been rising since the government transformed our food system to a totally globalized free trade system, its design was to increase prices, and its design was to make the government not intervene in price control. We had an Essential Commodities Act which has been deeply weakened as a result of the economic reforms. The vegetables are being exported, and it is not an issue of a class war between the poor and the middle class of India. It's a class war between global corporations trying to snatch the food from all Indians. I think it is a tragedy that we are talking of vegetables as a middle class luxury in a country with the richest diversity of vegetables, where till 20 years ago even the poor could make their sabji bhaji. This tragedy that the poor need only food grain and no other nutrition, and therefore should be condemned to nutrition, is the first thing. But that food security ordinance is in fact a food insecurity ordinance, because it is designed to destroy the production and procurement model of food security and replace it with a free market model, with the government giving the equivalent of 2 rupees for wheat and 3 rupees for rice to the poor, while the actual price in the market will be 20 rupees, 30 rupees, 40 rupees, constantly climbing. At no point have the food prices come down once they've risen. Nobody is seeing that those 2 rupee, 3 rupee prices are not only about grain, they're about cash transfer, which means a poor person will get 2 rupees for something that will cost 20 rupees and will therefore starve. It's a recipe for starvation, because the government has abandoned the Indian farmer.
Counter. I'd like the first counter to come from Mohan Guruswamy.
Universal PDS.
I'd like the first counter to come from Mohan Guruswamy. You raised some very strong and vocal points, Mohan Guruswamy. Basic argument of Vandana Shiva is that this is an artificial scarcity that the government has engineered knowingly, while spilling crocodile tears about how the poor get affected because of the food price hike. Your response, Mohan Guruswamy, directly to Vandana Shiva on top of the News Hour debate tonight.
I think her understanding of life is entirely different. No government would want a price increase, but price increases do take place for 2 reasons. One is either there is too much of money, a lot of money supply, or there is undersupply. Now in this case, we've had food production go up, but money supply has increased hugely. Instead of spending money on capital expenditure, on building roads and canals and dams and river systems and what have you, government has been giving away money to people. A lot of that money gets stolen. Even the money which goes to Narega and other schemes, they get stolen. So this money comes into the hands of a small section of people. There are 23 million people employed in the governments, another 7 million in public sector. These are people who live in a wonderful island, and they have just got a 1 lakh crore.
You think government employees are? So your argument is that government employees are splurging money. I'm sorry. I want every government employee to hear your argument tonight, Mohan Guruswamy. Because what you're saying, you're saying that the government.
No, listen. Listen to me.
No, 1 second. This is
No,
like
you're
George Bush's
distorting it.
argument.
Listen
This
to
is
me.
George Bush's argument. George Bush's argument
not.
was
It
that,
is
that
not.
the
It
food
is
prices
not.
are going
It is
up
not
because
that
George
if
Bush's
it
argument
is-
was food prices are going up because Indians are eating more. Your argument today is government employees are eating more, spending more on food, and that's why there is inflation. I mean,
They're
you're not
spending
going
more
to be very
because they have
popular
more
with them
money.
today.
They have more money. I'm looking for their votes, but that is the reality. You give 1 lakh crores a year additional amount of money into their hands, and this is going to have an effect on the market.
No, I'd say that's a pretty reductionist line, sir. With the greatest of respect, pretty reductionist line.
It is not.
It is not. You've reduced it to one thing.
That is a simple economic
Professor
argument.
Vivek Dahija, author of Indianomics, taking you on, please. Vivek, what do you think? You agree with that line? Indians have a lot of money. Government employees are too rich now. They've got extra money. They're spending more, spending on food. There's scarcity. I mean,
I don't think that's a credible explanation for the food price increase. As a matter of basic economics, inflation is a monetary phenomenon, but when prices of basic staples rise by this huge percentage, it's not a monetary phenomenon. There's a real increase in the price of basic staples.
So who do you blame?
I think we've got to take a step back. I mean, why, for one thing, have we even talked about our creaky and dysfunctional food distribution system in this country?
Bang on. Yep, absolutely.
So the fact is, I mean, if we actually had a system that functioned well, food prices, we have a system in which the middleman captures a huge part of the profit, in which half of the food rots from the farm to our table. So if we didn't have these two basic problems, food prices wouldn't be skyrocketing.
And what has this government done on that?
They've done nothing.
And so they've done nothing on cold storage. They've done nothing on
Zero.
transportation.
Zero.
Right?
And no, and just to add to that, I mean, we're talking about we're talking about a food security bill when the more basic question of the price of food that the average person faces is not even on the agenda.
So my question is very simple. Look at the situation tonight, right? And I want an economic argument to that. I'm coming to you, Shazia Elmi. I want to go to Sajid Chinoy first. My question tonight is, this government could have done more. It could have provided cold storage facilities. It could have provided transportation facilities. The government instead is practically outsourcing that job to companies that will pump in FDI in the retail sector.
Which is not happening.
Which is not happening. And will those companies who are putting in FDI in the retail sector try and ensure that I don't buy my cauliflower at 100 rupees a kilo? And which sector of the Indian population will that, those who do invest, when they invest that money in the retail sector, who are they reaching out to? How many middle class people will they help? Sajid, isn't the government to blame?
Well, Arnab, at some level, yes. So, I mean, we don't need to look for a fancy conspiracy theory. Let's not focus on the last 6 weeks. Look at the last 9 years.
Okay.
Food inflation has been averaging about 10% for the last 9 years. I can go down the list. It's rice, it's wheat, it's vegetables, it's milk, it's egg, fish, meat. The problem has been on a per capita basis, on a per person basis in India, supply has essentially been flat for the last 25 years. And understandably, demand is going up. People are going from 2 meals to 3 meals. They'd like to improve their food habits, so you move from basic foods to milk and high protein items. So there is a fundamental demand supply mismatch in India, and you're right. Our back-end infrastructure, the transmission mechanism of price signals, cold storage, warehousing, transportation facilities, and frankly, the incentive to produce these other non-cereal foods. See, the problem is when you increase MSPs by 10-15% year after year, farmers are only incentivized to produce rice and wheat. What they really should be doing is producing the other kinds of food for which the lower middle class, rural areas increasingly want. They want more milk, more vegetables, more fruit, more high protein items. So this is a structural issue that has spanned India for the last 10 or 12 years, and frankly, we haven't taken even a small bite.
No, the government knows. Very simple. It's not got to be high economics.
No.
The government knows the problem. Sure it does, Shazia, doesn't it? The government knows 40% of our fruit and vegetable is wasted because there are no storage and transit facilities. The government has known this. And if the government had cared enough, if the government hadn't taken the people for granted, then the government would have done something on this side for the last few years. Now they want that magic pill.
Arnab, before you go...
Yes, Vandana.
This is an election year.
Before you go to Shazia, let me just mention one thing. That in America, which has all the cold storage, where Walmart runs the food system, Walmart wastes 50% of the food. This is the data which made the United Nations celebrate Environment Day this year on food waste. It is not just a problem of India, and between yesterday and today, as the prices have gone up, the distribution system hasn't changed. So I think we need to look at why are the prices rising independent of the structures of distribution, for the simple reason, with those same structures of distribution, we had cheaper vegetables, we had cheaper rice.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, but let me actually get Mr. Ratan Puri on this. Mr. Ratan Puri, Shazia, I'm going to come to you last. Mr. Ratan Puri, I want to know today, you know, our food prices are matching that of the world. You know, you're buying cauliflower and you're going to buy your ladyfingers and you're going to buy your brinjal and your aubergine and all your vegetables at approximately the same price that you'd pay for them in Brussels. Our per capita income is 1/10 of theirs. Our food prices are going up 300% more, the global World Bank estimate. So what is happening here? And Mr. Ratan Puri, you think that your
Mr.
government,
Arnab?
which you're supporting, can come up with a
Yes.
food bill, spend a lot of money,
Yes.
win the election, but will it win the hearts of the people on this issue?
Majority of Kashmir lives in far-flung areas, and most of the items we import, we export only apple, and apple is also much expensive in Srinagar market than it is in Azadpur Mandi. We have the areas which remain cut off for more than 6 months. We have the areas where we have to carry food grains as head load or at the best on the pony bags. Still, price rise is not an issue in Kashmir. It sounds paradoxical, but it's true, because people discuss human life. That remains the cheapest commodity in this part of country. We in Srinagar have
Sir,
hundreds of thousands
Sir, I think
of
you're on a
dogs.
different
We cannot
page.
kill a
No,
dog
I
even
think
if
you're
it
on a
is rabbit.
different page, and I
Yes,
think
yes.
you're using
This
this
is the issue,
argument.
because
No,
we don't
you're
discuss-
using
we don't
this
discuss
argument
price rise
to
here.
avoid your responsibility towards. So you're supporting a government. I'm asking you today as a UP ally.
We don't discuss price rise is a problem.
I think price
much bigger
rise
problem
affects the
in
quality
Sir,
Kashmir
of
you
life.
may
than
not
it
think
is in
price
other
rise is
parts
an
of
issue in
country.
Kashmir. I'm sorry,
But-
Mr. Ratanpuri. Maybe you're not in touch. Even in Kashmir,
Yes.
maybe politicians like you don't need to go out and buy vegetables.
It's an
You ask
issue.
the Aam Admi in Kashmir, I'm sure
It
he'll
is-
also be
it
bothered
is
about the
an
price
issue,
of
but people
vegetables.
don't
The
discuss
question
it.
today is this,
They have
Mr.
more
Ratanpuri. You
important
give me,
issues.
Mr. Ratanpuri, please tell me,
Yes.
you have a charge today that you don't care for the middle class of this country. You think they don't vote. You know, you want to bring in a farm loan waiver before the 2009 election to win a demographic dividend for your election. You are fighting this election demographically on the basis
we form
of your
a very
food bill.
small part of UPA government, and our presence does not
There you
influence
go. You
the
dodge
policies of
responsibility.
UPA much.
Now you're dodging
Because
responsibility.
We have only three
Arnab.
members in the Lok Sabha. The numbers matter. And I have no problem in
Arnab, as long
admitting
as
that
you have-
we don't influence much the policies of UPA.
No, that may not be the question.
So
The
I
que-
cannot speak on
the
behalf of
question
As
is-
long as you have
the-
high
the question-
income
the-
inequality.
the que-
Where policy
So the
is not
question
taken.
is this, that it is not just food prices, fuel prices, loans, everything is going through the roof in your government. But your government has no disinclination in pouring tremendous, large, unaccounted amounts of money into social sector schemes in a pre-election year, which you don't have the
I wish-
confidence of implementing.
I wish
So are
it
you
was
fooling
my
the
government
people?
in the
That's the
sense
question.
as you
Shazia
want to
Elmi's
convey.
response. Shazia Elmi, what do you think?
Yes, I think it is a pre-election year, and this Food Security Act is nothing but a political gimmick. On the one hand, you're talking about Food Security Act. On the other, there is crippling inflation, and everybody's feeling the pinch. Now the issue is, we all know what the problem is. We've been seeing, the tons and tons of food grains rotting in the granaries. We want to outsource, we want to depend on foreign direct investment and Walmarts of the world to fix this problem of ours. My basic question is, what has been done, what has been the concrete step to fix the PDS, which is really a system that has, the farmers forced to sell the crops at the minimum support price, there is corruption. Look at the distribution system, there is corruption. The way it's hoarded and stored, there is corruption. So nothing is done where the gaping holes in the public distribution system is concerned. Now you keep announcing scheme after scheme in a pre-election year just for the purpose of voters to get enchanted by what you have to offer. But even the beneficiaries of that scheme
I think-
do not, for whom it's intended, do not get it. Now the question is, instead of doing anything concrete, to look at the public delivery mechanisms in our country, which are so skewed, and everybody knows how siphoning is going on, how pilfering and leakages are going on. Instead of stopping that, you keep announcing yet another scheme and a huge scheme at that, and we keep hearing of more and more corruption
Simple
scams
question.
at
Simple
every
question
level.
on this News Hour debate tonight.
You look
Wherever
at
you
fair
are,
price.
you can call in now. And the question is this, that in the 4 years of the UPA 2, the prices of fruit and vegetables, milk have gone up by over 60%, right? Prices of eggs, meat and fish have more than doubled. Now, I don't think the middle class of this country or anyone, the taxpayers, the salaried class, the urban middle class, does not have a problem here with anyone who needs to get free food grain, getting free food grain. The only question they are asking today is, how do you make a basic balanced diet? And Mr. Guruswamy answered this question. A basic balanced diet is the right of every hardworking Indian. How can you make a basic balanced diet go out of reach for the average Indian consumer? Just the simple response to that, Mr. Guruswamy.
For a start, nothing is a right.